When everything becomes cheap enough to win, no one wins. For decades, China's rise looked like a law of physics inevitable and unstoppable. It was the factory of the world, built on a brand of efficiency so ruthless it became a form of industrial art. We saw cities that never slept, fueled by a workforce that seemed to have no limit. Assembly lines glowed through the night, churning out the world's desires before the world even knew it wanted them. Prices dropped like clockwork, year after year, creating a deflationary pressure that redefined global trade. Western competitors didn't just lose, they simply gave up trying to compete with the China price. It was a miracle of scale. Discipline and sheer national willpower, civilization of 1.4 billion people, turning human labor into raw economic horsepower. But every miracle hides a cost, and every boom has its shadow. China's greatest strength, its ability to make everything cheaper, faster, and bigger is now the very thing pulling it down. Welcome to a world where efficiency has become a trap. Money, power, and history are colliding in the boardrooms of Beijing. And nothing is ever as simple as it looks on a GDP chart. China's story is the story of modern capitalism stretched to its absolute breaking point. It is a system that rewards growth at all costs, even when those costs cannibalize the future. We are watching a superpower optimize itself into a state of total exhaustion. To understand how we got here, we have to look at the man who started the clock. In 1978, Deng Xiaoping stood before a country broken by the Cultural Revolution and broke socialism, as steep as taboo, by declaring that poverty is not socialism. He told the people that getting rich was not just okay, it was patriotic. That single spark unleashed the fastest economic transformation in human history. Overnight, 800 million peasants began a great migration toward the coast. The countryside turned into a forest of cranes and rebar. Foreign investors saw a gold mine, an infinite supply of disciplined labor, and a government that prioritized growth over everything else. The experiment began in a few special economic zones, small test cities where the old communist rules were suspended. No central planning, no bureaucratic to adjust the raw pursuit of capital. It worked too well, and it worked too fast. Shenzhen, once a sleepy fishing village, became a metropolis of 17 million people in the blink of an eye. By the 1990s, the Shenzhen model was the only model that mattered. Every province, every city, every mayor wanted their own boom. They didn't just build factories, they built entire industrial ecosystems overnight. Local governments borrowed trillions from state banks to build highways they didn't yet need. By the early 2000s, China was an industrial black hole, devouring the world's supply of raw materials: steel, coal, copper, and oil. It could be dug up. China bought it. Western companies offshored their entire supply chains, lured by the promise of permanent low costs. But a dangerous incentive was baked into the foundation. To get promoted, a local official needed higher growth than the official in the next town over. They competed by giving away land for free and cutting taxes to zero. Companies competed by cutting profits and safety to stay ahead. Everyone was chasing the next quarter, but no one was looking at the next decade. It was a race to the bottom disguised as a sprint to the top. For 30 years, the machine was too powerful to fail. You got your cheap goods, and you didn't ask questions. China got rich, and the world got stuff. But somewhere between the 10th new airport and the 100th steel mill, the gears began to grind. The miracle became an addiction to credit and overconstruction. Local governments now had a problem. They had massive debts to pay back. The only way to pay the interest was to build even more factories to generate more tax revenue. By 2015, China was producing more steel than the rest of the planet combined. They were building apartments for billions in a country that didn't have enough people to fill them. Prices started to fall because the market was drowning in supply. In a normal economy, a factory that loses money closes down. In China, a factory that loses money gets a fresh loan so it can keep people employed. This brings us to the word that defines modern China: nuan, or involution. It is a process that keeps expanding without real progress. Imagine a group of people standing in a theater. One person stands on their toes to see better, so everyone else must stand on their toes too. Now everyone is exhausted, but no one has a better view. This is the state of the Chinese economy today. It is a zero-sum war where the only weapon left is the price tag. Nowhere is this more obvious than in the new three industries: solar, EVs, and lithium batteries. These were supposed to be the future, but instead, they have become the latest battleground for overcapacity. There are currently over 100 EV brands in China fighting for the same customers. To survive, they are slashing prices by 40% in a single year. They are selling cars for less than it costs to make them. On the outside, it looks like a win for the environment. On the inside, it is an industrial slaughterhouse where profits are being burned away. It's not a race to innovate anymore. It's a race to see who can bleed the longest. This is where the strategy turns global. China is exporting its involution to the rest of the world. When domestic demand isn't enough, they flood the global market. This is weaponized efficiency. Beijing uses massive state subsidies to keep these companies afloat while they undercut every international rival. The goal isn't profit, it's the total destruction of the competition. Once a Western industry is dead, China owns the entire supply chain. They did it with rare earth metals. They did it with steel. They are doing it now with the green transition. But even this strategy has a limit. You cannot lose money forever, even with a printing press. Industrial profits are cratering, and the trickle-down effect has stopped. Wages are stalling because companies have no money left to give raises. Young people are lying flat because the effort no longer matches the reward. The social contract is fraying. The state promised growth in exchange for silence, but what happens when the growth is there and the prosperity is gone? China isn't the first to hit this wall. In the 19th century, British coal flooded markets until the industry collapsed. In the 1980s, Japan's bubble economy was built on the same Even Rome fell into the trap, overproducing grain until its farmers were bankrupted. History shows that when a system loses its balance, it loses its soul. China's leaders talk about high-quality development, but the momentum of the machine is too great to stop. Every dollar spent on a failing factory today is a dollar stolen from the healthcare and pensions of tomorrow. We are witnessing the end of the cheap era. The world is realizing that the China price came with a hidden interest rate that is now coming due. There is nothing more expensive than being too cheap. When a system optimizes for everything except human balance, the only thing left to destroy is itself. If this deep dive into the hidden mechanics of the global economy gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers. If you know where to look, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.